YouTube, Ninja Midget here. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a Ruger 1022 safety removal tool. Now this one I made on my lathe, but it can be even simpler than that. You don't need a lathe, you don't need any special tooling. All you really need is a drill bit and a 5/16 inch rod and a 1/8 inch rod and a means to cut them with. So I got some cheap extruded aluminum at 5/16 inch, and I got some stainless steel at 1/8 inch rod, and what I'm doing is I'm cutting those off at 2.5 inches. So that's just going to be a process of getting the dremel out and cutting them down to size. Using your cutoff wheel and the 1/8 inch bit, you'll be able to make a tool that'll take down and put together the 1022 Ruger safety. Okay, now I used a dremel tool for cutting these, but you can use pretty much any tool like a hacksaw or anything that you've got around that are going to go ahead and cut these off. I went ahead and muted the sound on these because it's very annoying listening to a dremel tool. I tried to cut these down to bite-sized pieces just so you can see what I'm doing without having to watch the whole process here. So there's the 1/8 inch rod all cut off, and it took a little bit longer to get through the aluminum with the cutoff wheel. It would have been a lot easier just going and doing that with a hacksaw, but I ended up bending it after I got it far enough where I could just bend it until it broke. And there's your two pieces that are roughly the right length for you. Now to smooth off the ends on these, I'm focusing the camera in a little bit here. To smooth off the ends on these, it's easy just to use a sanding drum on your Dremel tool and just smooth those off. So you take off your cut wheel, go ahead and put on a sanding wheel, a sanding drum rather, and from there you can go ahead and even up those edges. And I also put a little bevel on the ends of them, just because it helps with it sliding in and out of that channel for the safety. So you don't want to put too much of a chamfer on them because you don't want any place for that detent to jump up into, but just putting a slight chamfer on them really helps for just getting it started. And then after you've got all that done, what you want to do is we want to smooth it up a little bit, because it is 5/16, but it is pretty tight if you're sliding it in and out. So what I did was I started with some 150 grit paper, just chucked it up in my drill, chucked the rod up in my drill, started with 150, and then went to 220, and that brought it down to a really nice satin finish. And it removed just maybe 1/1000th off of it, so that it'll slide in and out of that recess where the safety goes just a little bit easier, and of course it looks a little nicer too. And you want to sand on that bevel too, so you have a nice smooth transition. And just flip it around and do the other side. Now the stainless steel bar, because it was already pretty shiny, it wasn't extruded, that didn't need anything in the way of sanding. So all I did was take the sanding drum to that on the end and file off that rough end, and that worked out just fine. And there you can see that's moving very smoothly through that hole where the safety goes. Now I'm just got a 1/8 inch drill bit in my drill. It's a little easier if you have a drill press and a bench vise, but I wanted to show that this is something that you could easily do with just a drill. And of course I realized that you should probably put a piece of wood underneath your piece that you're working on, so you don't drill through into your desk or whatever you're on. And there it is. Okay, now after that, You raised up the edges a little bit where that hole is drilled, so you're going to chuck it up again. Use some 220 and just take that back down. So it'll slide in to the hole for your safety with no problems. It just takes a few seconds hitting it with 220 and you're good to go. And it's a good fit. The hole also doesn't have to be perfectly centered. Get it as centered as you can. It'll generally work. It's got to be pretty off for it not to work. Okay, so here's where I'm going to go ahead and break out my trigger housing and go ahead and fit this in and show you how it works. So you want to go ahead and first things first, you want to get your rod in place that's going to hold your spring and your detent. So you're going to go ahead and slide the rod in and try to get that hole in the rod so it's roughly lined up with where the hole is going down, and that is going down at an angle in there into your into that hole that's drilled down pretty much into the trigger base at like a 90-degree angle, I believe that is. So you carefully put that in there. Try to line it up so you can feel when it gets in that hole. It'll sink down a little bit and you can see when it jumps in that hole. And then you go ahead and take your 1/8" rod and push down. And you want to push down and keep trying to rotate it at the same time, because when it gets down in there, you're going to be able to rotate that forward. You're going to push the rod forward and it's going to capture that detent down in there. Now it's captured and it's not going anywhere. You go ahead and you take out your rod and you line up your safety and you make sure that your red stripe is on the left side of the gun, and that flat face should be facing up because your detent's at a little bit of an angle. So all you do is just push it through, maintaining some pressure on your aluminum rod to make sure that it doesn't get ahead of the safety and let that jump out on you. And there you go. Safety's all set up. So now, to take the safety out, what you want to do is you're going to take that flat surface and you're going to slide it down at about a 45-degree angle. You don't want to push it too far. If you get that detent stuck in there on that flat surface, it'll be hard to get out. And then you go ahead and push in your aluminum rod, making sure that you keep that hole at an angle to where the hole is that your detent is in. And when you see that hole coming through, you want to get your rod in there as quickly as possible, because that will jump out on you the moment it lines up with that hole. I've had that happen before. So you just wiggle it around a little bit and you'll feel when that spring pressure pushes on the rod, and you just gently let it up. Pull the rod out, and there you go. So that is how you can make a quick, easy tool for taking out and putting back in, more importantly, the Ruger 1022 safety.